What is going on with Kerbal Space Program 2? I feel like that is a pretty valid question to be asking right now because of some issues that have been popping up about this game within the last few, I'd say, days to weeks or so that I think we should have a little bit of a discussion about, right? What happened to KSP 2? Well, the first thing that happened, and I think this is a pretty clear example of a red flag here, is that the system specification requirements were released for the game. You know, this little graphic that said you need a minimum of a 2060 and they recommend a 3080, like Jesus. And if you look around some Discord servers on Reddit, and that got a few pitchforks out, right? That was the first little indication that something might have gone awry here. And then fast forward a few days later, and we start to get the early access footage from the epic YouTubers who attended the KSP2 preview event. You know, the heavy hitters, Matt Lown, Everyday Astronaut, Scott Manley. You know, basically not me. Well, no, I was invited. It just lost in the mail, right? The invitation, right? Nothing. Jokes aside, these guys are awesome, and they brought us this footage. And while there's a lot to compliment, I do want to have a balanced perspective in the video. Don't want to just be negative Nancy here, but there is a little bit of an elephant in the room, a little bit of an issue surrounding all this performance. Even though there is good stuff, let's talk about it. Let's give some examples here. The new UI, really good. A few little tweaks that might need to be made, like the fairing stuff like that, but overall, looks great. The sound design, mwah, chef's kiss, beautiful, top quality job, man. What else we got? New parts. I love these little cockpit things, the new nuclear engines. That looks great. Being able to paint rockets, not complaining. You know, the planets and moons, the textures on them from a distance look really nice. The new KSC design also looks nice. You know, the plumes, not that bad, pretty good, right? Overall, this procedural wings. Oh my God, I almost forgot about that. Jesus, I love procedural wings. Thank you so much for procedural wings. But yeah, these things are all great, and I think they will make for an improved playing experience mostly. But we do have to talk about this little elephant. And where did it go? Where's the elephant located? It is right here. Yep, right. It's a pretty big elephant because this is, I'm talking about the performance, obviously. This is, a little bit rough. This is, I believe, this is from Everyday Astronaut. I believe they had a 4080, and this is 10 FPS, maybe? And this is not even that big of a rocket. Like, oh Lord. And this kind of makes sense considering the minimum specs that they wanted people. It all kind of adds up here that this game it's going to melt your computer. We're going to be running GPUs at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 degrees Celsius. They're literally going to be liquefying in the computer. It's going to be hotter inside these machines than on the surface of the sun. Like, I have a 1080 Ti. I don't have a 30. I'm worried. Fingers crossed. Please, can I play this game? And there have been people like Carnassa, Shadowzone. They made videos pointing out the fact that I think around 65% of Steam users don't actually meet the minimum system requirements to even play KSP. And something like 80 to 90% don't meet the recommended specs. So like, guys, isn't the point to grow the community? Don't we want to make the game more accessible, get more people interested in KSP and space and all that fun stuff? And I don't know if this is really the way to accomplish that, personally. You know? And, you know, you always get the most common counter argument is, bro, it's early access, what do you expect? They'll fix it. Jesus, man, calm down. And I got that comment a lot on the previous video I made about KSP2, where I was basically comparing KSP1 with mods to KSP2 early access and basically saying it's kind of the same experience. So what's going on here? And the eventual conclusion I made in that video was, while they look similar on the surface, KSP2 will have a brand new architecture to build off of, a whole new backbone. It's what you don't see. It's what's behind the screen, behind the stage, behind the curtain. That's the word I'm looking for. That is really the new experience because, you know, once you get new features, once you get mods, the experience of KSP2 has the potential to be much better than KSP1. And that kind of argument doesn't really hold much water if the architecture sucks, which, this is concerning. This is a little bit concerning. And this goes back to that comment I always got. It wasn't the most common comment, but it was the second most common comment. Only beat very slightly by the one that said I sound like the nerd emoji. But, you know, after that, it was KSP2 early access. What do you expect? It's not done yet. It's basically a beta. Why are you complaining? And the reason I'm complaining is because these early accesses, it's kind of an issue, in my opinion, because I don't know if very many of you are in the flight sim community. Probably not a lot. There's like 5 people in it, but there is a little bit of a similar situation with these early accesses a few months ago, where a developer was releasing an early access product that was not even close to done, which is similar to this KSP2 one, right? And people were not happy. People were complaining a lot because the concern was, right, if you give them the money, they're just gonna take it and then just not really finish the product. And that is definitely something that we need to think about, because we're talking about the publisher of KSP2. Who is that? I mean, there's Intercept Games. Those are the developers. They're not really doing anything wrong here. They're doing you know, the best they can with the resources they've got. But who's the next level up? Take-Two Interactive, the publisher, the billion-dollar evil corporation that everyone loves to hate. All these corporate, Blizzard, Activision, that's the same company. But anyway, Microsoft, Apple, Google, YouTube, definitely. And these guys are about to, on Friday, which is only a few days away, time of recording, are going to make a lot of money from this early access. People are going to be buying it, and they're going to be getting the money. And then if you're Take-Two, you know, what is your perspective here, right? It's like, hey, I just got paid. Why am I still funding the development of this game? Or at least I'm giving it as much money as I am. Like, wouldn't it be at least possible that they just cut the budget and give Nate Simpson and all the other devs very few resources to actually finish the game, because they already got paid? You know, their incentive is largely gone. So, I mean, yes, it would be wise, it would be smart long-term planning to invest in the game so it can get more features and eventually grow, but that's not always how these corporations think. And this could be an issue. Like, what if, because think about it, this game was announced on August 19th, 2019, 3.5 years ago. It took 3.5 years to get from the reveal trailer to buggy early access. And that, you know, how long do you think it's going to take to get from buggy early access to interstellar travel, to multiplayer, to even science and stuff like that, colonies? Like, this, we're talking years, right, at a minimum. And if, God forbid, the budget gets cut, it might take for, like, never, maybe, who knows. And the other concern is with the actual players, the other concern in this early access, because if you release the game into early access, people, and it's buggy, laggy, performance issues, requires a supercomputer to play on, people is not going to buy the game. They're going to take a look at it and say, KSP2, oh, is that the game that's really buggy and I will destroy my computer? I'm not buying that. And that's going to, people like that aren't probably not going to come back to the game. Like, even if it gets better and better and better, you know, they might not hear about it again, because this is really where they're doing the marketing push. You kind of, first impressions matter, right? If you don't make a good impression, they're just going to turn away. And these are a lot of potential community members, a lot of potential new players that are not going to get into the game because of some sour taste in their mouth because of this first experience. And what if they do buy it and they don't like it because, you know, they build a 50-part craft and it lags for the first 5 minutes of the flight? You know, they might just stop playing the game and just leave. And that was a problem with Battlefront 2, if you remember that from 2017. A lot of you probably honestly too young for that. But that was an EA game, obviously not a good start. But that was the one that released with just pay to win, like gambling, arcade, loot boxes everywhere. And there is a little bit of a little bit of a hoopla going on. And eventually, like 2 years later, the game got completely fixed and it was pretty good. But by that time, all the players had left, you know? There was only a fraction of the people who actually were still remaining. And those were only really people like within the actual community. And this is a concern because, yes, I understand the argument. People always say, well, you know, everyone complains when games get delayed, but they also complain when games get released when they're unfinished. So you can't really, you know, you can't have both worlds. And the world I would prefer to live in, and I know this is wishful thinking, is where we got realistic timelines. Because Take-Two, if you remember, announced KSP2 would be coming in early 2020. That was only like at most 8 months from the announcement. Like, how stupid do you have to be to think the game would be ready by then? Because look how long it took to get where we are now. There is no way that game was even close to being ready in August, or even in early 2020. Even in early 2021, it's still not really ready. It's in like a beta, honestly. So what's going on here? So either Take-Two has no idea how game development works, or they are just intentionally misleading us with these timelines and release dates. They're trying to build hype and just string the community along, keep people interested. Those are both possibilities. And my theory, my little tinfoil hat theory as to why we have this early access, is the Take-Two executives, were like looking at KSP and like, guys, this would be in some point in 2022, right? They're like, guys, it's been 2 years since we said this game was going to come out, and we don't really have anything. So what do we got to do? Let's get the tape out. Zip, 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 zip. Throw a few things together, tape it up, and boom, throw it out. Early access, boom, release. I think they just kind of chucked a product out just to get something out the door so they can make a little bit of money, even though it's not done yet. Because I think it was taking way too long, and they just wanted something. And this kind of ties back to a video that Shadowzone made a while ago, where he basically raised the possibility that some KSP2 devs, or the KSP2 development track, was losing its focus a little bit, potentially, by trying to add all these really big, huge features, interstellar, advanced colonies, multiplayer, all these kind of, it felt like, and I do kind of agree with this, that over the course of the development process, they would release all these little videos and stuff, and they'd all show these big, huge new features they've been working on. And the point that Shadowzone made was that, maybe it would be wise to focus on the fundamentals before these big, huge things, because the game will never get done if every time you're adding a new huge feature, it's going to take an eternity to finish the game, And that is a point I agree with, and this is where we get into these performance issues and the specification issue. I think this is really just a symptom of a larger problem, which is really just, honestly, mostly on the part of Take-Two. A, not giving the KSP2 devs enough resources and money to satisfactorily finish the game, and B, giving these ridiculous timelines saying the game would be out in early 2020. If it's not going to be out then, just don't say it's going to be out. You can put coming soon on the trailer, right? You just give the devs the resources they need to finish the game by a reasonable time. And I think that's what could have happened if Take-Two would have been a little bit less stupid. And another thing that does not reflect too greatly on this publisher here is, if you remember the Star Theory Intercept Games drama where they were like poaching developers and buying out, nonsense, right? This is why games don't get finished, because you're doing all this corporate money blobble stuff. Like, let's focus on finishing the game, releasing a usable build of it, which, what we have now is usable, but it would be great if we could improve a little bit and get to the 1.0. Let's just get to the 1.0, guys. It's kind of like the Titanic, right? We're the lookouts, and we see the iceberg ahead. We can turn, we can avoid it, but we got to get the message down to the bridge to hard the port, turn the helm over, and dodge the iceberg, because if we don't, well, we all know what happens next. Now, I know I've sounded like a bit of a negative Nancy throughout most of this video, but don't get me wrong, I'm still a huge advocate for this game. I'm going to be shilling out the $50. I'm buying it day one, probably the second it releases at 8 a.m., and I'm going to be streaming it, playing it for hours and hours on end. Still super excited for this game. The issues that exist right now aren't really deal breakers for me in the moment, but really my concern is like they impact KSP2's ability to reach its maximum potential in the long term, and that's really what I want. I want to see this community grow. I want to see Kerbal Space Program thriving 5-10 years into the future, like it has the previous 5 to 10 years. I've been playing this game for years, and it's been a lot of fun. And I would, like I said, I'm still a huge advocate. I just wanted to get my opinions out. Feel free to, agree in the comments, disagree in the comments. I'll try to read as many as I can. You can call me the nerd emoji if you want, whatever. But if you raise some good points, I'll try my best. Feel free to change my mind. Feel free to raise some points that, I may not have thought of. I just wanted to get this out, get this public, get a few people talking, and, here's to KSP2, everybody. See ya!